Councilor Crittenden, would you do our invocation, please?
Go ahead. Stand, please. Heavenly Father, again, I want to thank you for this beautiful day you've blessed us with, for the recent rains we desperately need, and for the forecast for more. Father, in this time of Thanksgiving, we want to remember all the blessings that you give us as people, as a tribe, as a government. And Father, I'd pray for those that are less fortunate this morning. You know all about their needs, and I pray that you'd bless them as only you can. I'd ask, Father, that you'd watch over our soldiers, those in harm's way this morning, those that might be sick, and those that have lost loved ones. Comfort them, give them peace. Go with us now and help us make good decisions in this meeting this morning, and help us always to look toward those that are more needy than we are, and help us, Father, to do what's right by our people. Forgive us where we fail. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Roll call, please.
Jack Baker.
Here.
John Watt. Buell England.
Here.
Bill John Baker.
Here.
Harley Bezer.
Here.
Julia Coates. Here. Bradley Cobb. Joe Crittenden.
Here.
Jody Fishenhoff.
Here.
Meredith Braley. Janelle Fulbright. Don Garvin. Chuck Hoskin Jr.
Here.
Tana Glory Jordan. Present. Curtis Snell. Chris Soap.
Here.
David Thornton. We do have a quorum.
Okay, we do have a quorum. I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of the October 28th regular session.
Second.
Any discussion or corrections? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Next we have our reports, our financial and treasurer's report. Treasurer Kelly Catcher.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You have my written report. I only had one other item I wanted to mention to you. This is my oversight. I should have brought it up during the budget hearings, but Legislative Act 0502, which established the cash reserve, which requires 1.75% of the budget to be set aside in a cash reserve. We're a little short on that, about $1.7 million. It's currently funded with cash of $1,250,000, contingency reserve of $2,250,000, and a line of credit of $5 million, which totals about $8.5 million. Based on our current budget, it should be around the 10.2 level. I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and there's no action we need to take today, but going forward, we should look at ways to fund that.
Okay. Are there any fishing off?
Yeah, Kelly, I was looking at this report, and it showed that $10.5 million of Cherokee Nation's money was bid out, and there was no bid submitted by tarot vendors. Can you tell me what areas that was in?
I will have to pull the details on that and get back with you.
Okay. I'm taking it and I'm adding it to the 3.6 that tarot vendors bid on that didn't get. And that's totaling about $10.5 million. And that's about a third of acquisition management's money for the year. So one out of every $3 is going somewhere else, and it's not to a tarot vendor. And that's what I'm curious about.
Are you referring to
Page 2.
page 2? Yes. $26 million was awarded to tarot vendors. $3.7 million was awarded to non-tarot vendors, and those are the ones who went through the bid process where a tarot vendor bid on it. And I will get with procurement and get you the details on the $10.5 million, what areas those were where no tarot vendor bid on them.
Okay, and I'd like to know the 3.6 too, because like I said, you add them up together, that's one out of every $3. And I want to know where they're coming up short at.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Catcher? Next is Cherokee Nation Businesses, Mr. Stewart.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Financially, you have the financial report just at a very high level. C&E is about where we were last year on a net income basis. Cash flow is about $2 or $3 million higher. So we've got some stabilization, I guess, from year to year, which which is good considering the economy, and so we would expect that to see some slight increases coming up. At the C&B level, however, we're about $6 million up over last year, and that's attributable to our subsidiaries and the companies that we bought. They're doing very well. I mean, they're small companies, so we don't see the huge net income, but they're all profitable. They're all doing well. Their backlogs are good going into 2011. So I think we're going to see that number start increasing every year, which is really what our goal is to increase the non-gaming revenue so that we start diversifying. So that's about $6 million up over last year. So I think that's a good story for us financially. In terms of the projects at C&E, we have the Tahlequah project is now on the front burner to design and get that moving. It was a good call when we built the casino here, so it would double and be able to turn into a school. So we had the infrastructure already there when we built it. It cost us a little more to do, but it was you love it when a plan comes together. Well, that one worked well. Ramona is in the final stages of design, and Fort Gibson we're looking at and evaluating, looking at the property on what would fit the best there and doing the business case on those. In terms of just projects, internally we have the indoor air quality project that we're about, 25 to 30% in, and it essentially replaces all of the heat and air in the older sections of the casino. So the new section has new heat and air, and then so the rest of it will be replaced. And so that's going to substantially improve the air quality in the entire property. So from a health standpoint, I think that's going to be really positive for the property. The remodel of Casino 3, that's the original building, the house that Buell built, right? So we're remodeling it completely. We had to put some the roof was old anyway. We just went through the whole thing and did it. The last
construction.
Well, considering that you're 90, it's 20 years old. It's due. I think it's outside the warranty period, right?
Yeah.
On the record. That's right. So we may want to pull those records out. So the remodel of that casino, and then the last piece of improvement is the sprung structure. So that's what we're going to look at next, is to how do we replace that. That sprung has a useful life that is coming to its end. So that is going to have to be done. So we'll look at that. And one more project on West Siloam. We're going to, Gina, could you comment on that? What we're doing in that area? There's a very nice visual area right outside the buffet, and we have a little bit of artwork there, but we're going to improve that, and Gina knows a little more about that.
Excuse me, Councilor Fulbright has a question first.
Well, I might wait for later, but I was wondering, are there any plans in the future for updating Roland a little bit? It's always pushed to the back burner, but it's
Right.
a very profitable place, but it needs a lot.
Yes, it's on the burner
Okay.
to evaluate. I agree with you. We agree as a management team that we need to do something. We're just always not sure how much. So it's there, and we'll keep it on the front burner. So, Gina?
For those of you who have been to the West Siloam Casino, you know that we have a small art offering that's right across from the buffet area. And also that there's a huge blank wall that goes all the way down to the elevators that takes you up to the second floor. So what we've done is we've designed an expanded art offering to offer not only display cases, but interactive sort of learning tools, if you will, along that wall as you're going down to the elevators. We also have, which I think is a very neat display, of the clothing of the period, which is right before the Trail of Tears, from late 1700s to early 1800s for the clothing of the period because it's a mixture of old and new. So I've commissioned mannequins that look Cherokee, and we will put clothing as how our people lived in the woods, so to speak, up in the hills, and then clothing of how our Cherokees did whenever they went to Washington, D.C., so to speak. Just to sort of, I guess, educate people on, sort of the two totally different tones of who we were as Cherokee people whenever we lived back in the East. We also have a display that is a digital display that are almost like picture frames, if you will, but that are going to tell Cherokee stories. So we have Jamel, who is Dr. Morton's grandson, who is a cartoonist, so to speak, and he's creating these stories and folklore of Cherokee history, culture, and heritage that will loop every, 10 minutes or so through these 3 digital displays, so you can go over there and actually learn stories about Cherokee history, culture, and heritage. So we start the project on Monday. It's going to take us until, I believe, around the middle of January to the end of January 11 to complete it. Anyway, we'll have a small reception. We'll invite you all to come and take a look at it. But we're very proud of this project. Any questions about that?
Thanks, Gina.
Go ahead.
Yes, Councilor Conlon.
I just wanted to ask about Ramona. With the exception of maybe the properties on I-40, and I know we've talked about this, but tell me the thoughts on the truck parking, because I know those guys from the distribution center are just loving that place. So I'm just trying to find out what the plans are as far as
How much more parking?
accommodating them without becoming a truck stop.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I think we're parking them down below, aren't we, Sean?
The design initial was up above, that area down below.
It's possible, but the problem is that they take up so much turning radius and space that from an economic standpoint, we allocate some space, but it's not really worth it to build the whole property for the trucker. I mean, it's a good piece of the business. But I think the real economic benefit for us is to build something that all of the local people in the towns, give them a place to go and have a meeting and a place to eat and make it a little more, for the communities. So we're debating all of that right now, and it's not finalized, but once we get it plugged in, we'll let you know.
I just know that I know a lot of patients that work at the distribution center, and I guess it's just become well known in the trucking industry that that's now a stop-off point.
Right.
So I know that's going to continue to be an issue.
It's kind of one of those things, you build it and
They
got to deal with it.
Right.
They will come. So it's a good point, Will.
Speaker Fraser.
Dave, what type of a backlog do we have at CNI in regard to, particularly federal contracts?
That was kind of it's a good segue into my talking about CNI. What we focused on with CNI is focusing on the infrastructure and getting the shared services, all of the HR and the accounting, the legal, the contract administration, and all of those services are now fully integrated. All right. So in other words, the accounting staff now works at C&B, and we have a contracts person that reports up to legal. The HR people report up to C&B, and then we have a local person, Tonette, that's there. So the concept is that those people work for C&B, but we have a local person on point that deals on property, but they use the policies and procedures of C&B. Now, that's a huge step at CNI to get that fully integrated. The second thing we focused on is to getting the business units aligned so that they're a little more targeted in what the responsibilities of the people are doing, instead of having an organization that everybody kind of works for all the companies. We're aligning them a little better so that we have people that are responsible for particular areas. So that's the second thing. And we've identified some holes in the organization that we need to fill at some of the top levels. So senior management, we need to get a cost accountant, for example. They're in the manufacturing business. So we're going to do that. So we have a few positions that we're looking for there. The third thing is their bidding and their costing and their sales process. What we found was that by identifying true cost, actually the bid one loss ratio was kind of low because our costs were too high, because they were inflating some of the costs just to make sure that we didn't lose money on the contract, when in fact we weren't getting the contract because the price was too high. So what we found out was we were able to reduce our bid price legitimately, and to some of our top 4 or 5 customers, and try to fill the holes in the projected sales in the future. So now we have a forecasting tool that says we have our existing contracts, those taper off in certain months in the future, so we can be more aggressive to bid to win contracts for these particular months. So we just put all that together within the last 30 days. We've been working on it for months, and so now we have that. We have a probability schedule that says, okay, on these contracts, we're 50 or 75% probable of getting that, and what does that look like for the future? And I know that's a long answer to your question, but the point is now we have a forecasting tool, we have good pricing for our bids, and we have a mechanism to attack, be more aggressive, and try to fill the backlog for the future.
Cost has always been a problem to determine there.
Right.
So that's great.
Right. So we're on all of that, and I feel really good about where we are in the infrastructure piece. We still have ways to go, but.
Okay, Councilor Jordan.
Yes. David, given the Echo Hawk decision on the property out here at the Y, when can we anticipate that you all may start doing something on that work?
Well, we're starting now on the process. So now we have to figure out what we're going to build, and more than likely that will be a phased expansion. So we know we're going to build at least what we have here. So that's at a minimum. So we'll try to duplicate that, learn from what we've learned on that property, and then look at some other options, which might be there's a potential for some amenities like maybe a museum or a conference center or a small hotel. All those things are in the idea process, but we have to.
Vote for the hotel.
Huh?
I vote for the hotel.
Yeah, I mean it would be a nice amenity. The problem is does it make money? And so we've got to go through the needs and the business case on that to make sure that financially what that would return. So it's all on the table, and I can't tell you exactly what it is because we're still evaluating it, but we're on it.
I think around the holiday you would find that everyone in here would probably vote for the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
So do we need to take that vote just before the holidays?
Well, let me do my homework and bring it back, and we'll have the business case presented to our executive committee, and we have a whole process we go through before we can spend money, and so I'll keep you posted on all that.
And a couple of good restaurants.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hold you to it.
Well, I didn't really say I didn't do anything. Right.
Councilor Calvin Watts.
Okay.
Thank you. So I noticed, and I think it was brought up last night, but our percentage of Cherokee employment seems to be dropping. For a long time it maintained, I think, approximately 55%, and now it's at 47%. So I think that raises concerns for me, and I know maybe you were caught off guard last night, but I would like to know at next month's meeting here in committee at least what the plan is to address this, because it did maintain for a long time at that 55%, and now it's gotten down to that 47%.
I think one of the reasons for that, and Gina, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we use CDIB card to determine that percentage.
Which is wrong.
That's what we did. Right or wrong, that's what we did, and our percentage was based on that. And then we changed to Blue Card. And so what happened was that percentage dropped as a result of the change in practice.
I see, okay.
So we don't have a change in what's going on in our business, and I think that's what your point is do we have a declining trend?
Okay.
The answer is no.
I am still concerned about C&B's percentages because they're really low at C&B. And I know you've had org chart changes and that may have impacted that who got actually then, because I think it was fairly high for a long time. And then, but it started like at 38% or something, or 30-something%. And C&B now, the way we're structured, is really the decision maker. So I hope that over time we see that grow because we need Cherokees in those roles for decision making. You see, so I know that Catoosa continues to struggle financially, but maybe at next meeting if we could have like. It's in my backyard and I'm alarmed. I mean, I don't want to not invest in it. And I even when I look at the Hard Rock decision, I still think that given the economy and the competition in the Tulsa area, it's probably the right decision. But maybe if we could have a little bit more discussion about whatever you can say publicly to reassure people that, because it's the only property on a decline, I think, financially, compared to others, or not meeting revenue, our goals.
Right.
So, we get to hear stuff being on the board, actively, as non-voting members, but if there's something that you could talk about publicly, that would be great. And then I'm curious next month what your vision for C&I is, how we're going to grow those job opportunities.
Okay.
If you could next month.
I can do both of those.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Fishinghawk.
I'll tell you what I want, but nothing formal or anything. I just want to know, since we started gaming, which I think was back in,
Early 90s.
yeah, every year our Cherokee had won it. Just, during 97, it was how many, whatever percent, 98, 99, whenever you can get up to the numbers.
Okay, I'll go back as far as we can.
Yeah.
I don't know what's available, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Stewart?
I think, we have a couple of acquisitions. We have one acquisition we're getting very close on in the next few days, so we're under non-disclosure, but once we make some of those decisions, we'll be sure that you know about it. But we do have an acquisition in the IT sector that we're going to make. That's a very good one, so I'll let you know about that. So that, if there's any other questions.
Councilor Buster.
David, when is the road construction scheduled to be completed there?
We expect it actually they expected it prior to Thanksgiving, but they're going to miss that. I think the latest is, Sean, by the end of the calendar year, they're looking at having that road complete, and I think it gets back to your point, Kara. I mean, road construction significantly affects people's willingness to go out there. But we're still holding numbers pretty strong considering that. So I think by the end of the year.
And that was my follow-up question, David. I'd like to see if we can do that. Let's see what it looks like after the road construction is completed. Because if you're looking at 7 or 8% below at Catoosa, you're actually talking about a lot of money compared to Ramona or West Island Spring, because that's a big portion of our revenue. So
right.
I'd be interested to see what it does after road construction is complete.
Yeah, we have 2 or 3 factors without going into a lot of business detail. Of course, the competition of the creeks, and then you have the economy, and then you have the road. So when you look at the financial effect of the recession, then you look at the competition, what kind of effect they've had, and then you need to look at the effect it's had on us. And so you have to look at a relative point of view on this, not just where it was, but where it would have been. And then when you consider the fact that we have a new casino in South Tulsa with a fairly good location, and we have road construction. So when you in the business case, we went through many options on this, and the way you have to look at it is not the growth curve of where you are and what that growth curve is on a normal growth path, because when you have competition and recession, you look at where you would have been if you hadn't done anything. And that's where we look at it from a business point of view. You can't look at it from here. You have to look at if you had not done anything, where would you be?
And I understand, there's a lot of factors
Right.
and factors in it. It's hard to pinpoint any one of those 3 or 4 scenarios
Right.
that you talked about. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what it does after the road construction
Right,
complete,
but I would just fundamentally disagree that Catoosa's struggling.
Well,
I mean,
tend to agree
I
with
just
what
don't
you're
agree with it.
saying.
I think that given our business decision and the kind of traffic that we get considering out there in the recession, I think the property's doing very well. And if you want to go out there on a weekend, you'll see it's doing well. So,
Well, I agree with what you're saying. And then another thing is just a comment on C&I. I was on the advisory board with Council Crittenden and Snell, and about 3 years ago when I went on the board, and I was really, really concerned about C&I, the company, and the money that we weren't making there. And I know, being familiar with some programs like that, it takes 2 to 3 years to turn a company around or turn a program around. So I'm really happy to see the financial results from C&I. I had some reservations about consolidation, but I thought, well, let's give it a chance to work, and I'm glad we did, because I could see with consolidated services to where you do benefit from those things, because there's a lot of money going out for just different things, office stuff, attorney fees,
right.
and things like that. So I'm happy to see CNI to come back to look on the profit side of the business program. So I think we've done a good job with it.
Well, thanks. Well, it takes a while
Yeah, I
to
understand.
change that. And the margin of the business that we're in is low. It just is. Wire cabling, a lot of it has gone overseas, a lot of it's gone south, and we have maintained, and also we have a high minimum wage rate as compared to our competitors.
And the other thing, and this is my last comment, is on the 8A companies that were formed down there, I don't know that everybody understands why we did the 8A, forming those 8 or 9 companies, or in the process can do it. So back then, that we didn't have a chance to go in and bid as an 8A, so I see that as a positive step taken forward. And I think there's probably, 4 more that we can form real quickly?
Right. Yeah, that's part of ours, and that's why we have so many companies, and it's a little cumbersome to manage. But the strategic idea is we get these companies that have niches of expertise, we market that to the government, and so that's why that strategy exists. But when you look at C&I, the wage rate difference, the benefits that we pay, and the business that we're in, it's almost the nature of where we are. And what we're going to try to do is to complement that business with higher margin business. And that's what happened in the past, is the staffing service was a lot more profitable, and so it offset the low margin of the manufacturing side. Well, that business went down, and so now we're trying to build that business back up, and at the same time look at our core business and see if there's other things we can do that are higher margin. So it just takes a while, and I appreciate your patience with it, but it's going at a pretty good pace considering.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Crittenden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And David, C&I, as Harley was talking about, all of us were concerned over the years, but, I mean, the GEG thing and what I call the millstone around the neck, the construction arm that they had to deal with, and they didn't ask for it. It was dumped on their head, actually. Once we got kind of out from under that and got back to core businesses, they had a fighting chance.
Right.
And so I'm glad we're at that point, and I thank you for your help with that and the guidance and all that you've given them.
Well, thanks. Yeah, we have stripped out the IT, put it with the IT business. We've taken construction, and we're going to put it under a different umbrella. And we're actually going to take staffing services and treat it a little more entrepreneurial and put it into its own box and let them go out and try to get that, build up that backlog. And so that is the idea. Is let's focus on what we do it well, and with all of our expertise. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Councilor Powell.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I'm sure, back to gaming, and I'm quite sure, somebody puts a card in or they've got a player's card or something. Do y'all look at those numbers where they're coming from? Because I know a lot of people again, talking about Ramona and kind of the next step from there, they have such a good time at Ramona, they go, let's go down to Catoosa. And so I just wonder, do you look at those numbers when somebody hands you a player's card or inserts it in the machine? Do you look at where the people are coming from?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, we made a big investment in that system.
Okay.
And so we're just now able to accumulate all the data and understand our customer a little better.
Okay.
So we give them promotions, and in fact, if you go to any casino except for Will Rogers, you're in the same system. So that was a little more expensive to do, but all these satellite casinos, we know where everybody's going. So yeah, we're all over that.
Good. Thank you.
Dr. Fisher.
Oh, I was just going to echo what Joe and Harley said about CNI, about you doing a good job and taking care of it.
Thank you.
Continue.
Okay. Anything?
Is there anything else for Mr. Stewart? Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good holiday.
Thank you, Dave. You too. Okay. Next is Career Services, Diane Kelly. It's good to have you back with us.
I second that.
Happy Thanksgiving to all of you, and I just want to say thank you for the cards, the phone calls, the emails while I was out sick. You all were very kind, and I appreciate that. I've got a report here. It's our report that we gave out at the Cherokee Vendor Fair a couple of weeks ago, and the banquet. Everybody that came through the vendor fair received one of these reports, and if you didn't get one, this is our report for the year. We gave these out last year, and we recognized 3 Pioneer certified businesses there at the back, and we also will be putting together a report on just career services for this next year, and also one from Job Corps. So you'll be getting a couple more reports for us, but probably won't be until after the first of the year, but we're working on it. You've received our report. I just would like to share with you some of the things that we are doing. There is a potential business in Salisaw that we've been working with Julie Ferguson, who is the Business and Economic Development Director for the City of Salisaw. And the project is called Project Montag, although that's not the name of the business. You know how the Department of Commerce is. They always give somebody a name, kind of like a hurricane, and give them a name. So this one's called Montag. And it's going to be located there in the industrial park across from the Votech. They would actually employ about 100 people the first part of the year, and then by the time they're up operating around 250. Marguerite McKinney with C&B is also involved. Marguerite's gone down and she toured with the group when they came in. It's kind of like machine shop, welding type jobs. Don't know exactly what they're marketing. They haven't shared all that with us. We've been on conference calls with them. I've had staff involved in some of the discussions. We're looking at utilizing our new National Emergency Grant, OJT, for some of the startup. The State Department has already obligated TIPS monies to help them with actual training for startup. We did the conference call yesterday with the Department of Commerce, and the money's there for that. I don't know how much you stay on top of what the economy is, but Sequoia County is 4th largest in unemployment rates for the whole state of Oklahoma. So in terms of counties, Nowata County and Sequoia are the 2 in our respective area that fall into those categories with the high unemployment rate. And our NEG OJT grant is designed to work with those people that have been what they call chronic unemployed. And we are actually going to hopefully saturate maybe a few of those slots down in that area because of this, because it's a potential business. The other thing is that AERT Joe Brooks and Al Drinkwater were by a couple of days ago. They brought by some fiberglass plastic tubs that they're going to be manufacturing in the Watts plant. They had just left Fort Smith, Arkansas. They've been to the Whirlpool plant. They purchased around $75,000 worth of equipment that will actually be disassembled and moved to the plant in Watts. And they brought the product by because they're expanding and diversifying that business. And they dropped off a letter, one for the chief and one for David and Marguerite and them to look at. So they're looking at expanding that and employing some more people. Of course, we're continuing to work with Swans. Bassett, spoke with them. They will be rolling out the new expansion there, and hopefully they'll be having a open house. They want to do it sometime in December. Not sure about the date, but we'll let you know. We also are working with Fansteel and Muskogee. And then also we relocated our offices at the workforce office back to Classen. I think Councilman Baker is aware of that.
Yes.
And want to thank you for going and accepting that workforce award for the Cherokee Nation last week. I understand it was a really nice event.
It was very nice.
We are going to be putting some of our day training participants, I think 6 to 8, with the Commerce Department. Spoke with Shay this morning, and it looks like it's going to be after the first year before we put them there. They're going to be training to do silversmithing as part of the Commerce Business Incubator. So we'll be working with them. Also, we're looking at visiting with community development to see if they can assist us with some of your concerns at last month's meeting about Rogers County and Craig County with day work. The only way that we could actually expand the day work training in those areas is if we could secure a supervisor from one of the programs or a specific project up in and around those areas. And so I was going to sit down with Charlie's group to see if they're doing any particular projects up in that area that we could actually assign some day work people. So we're working on that, and your comments have been taken under advisement, and we will try to do what we can in those two areas. I can't tell you what we're going to do. I've only been back about a week, so give me a few days to rejuvenate, and we'll get something going. Somebody had asked about, I think it was probably Councilwoman Fishenhawk had asked about the driver's ed. The chief had visited with me a couple of months ago about a lot of our clients cannot secure jobs because they can't drive. Some of them have unexpired driver's license, or they have actually been pulled and have to go back to training or DUI school. And we don't know how many clients that fall in that category, but when we did our staff development meeting, a lot of the counselors said they've got at least 4 to 5 clients, every one of them, that fall into this category. So one of the things that we're looking at is after the first of the year, probably late spring for some of you, we would actually try to do a pilot and see whether or not it's practical for us to do. And if we've got a lot of clients that fall into that, then we would actually be working with the DUI entity to try to get those people back in employment. Because of the economy, there's a lot of people that can't drive, and we're trying to get their transportation needs through either Pell Van or CATS, and in some cases Pell Van and CATS do not go into those particular remote areas. They're still having to find ways to get to the highway or a bus stop to get picked up. So with that, we are working on that, and I'll report more on that the first of the year. I guess that's pretty much it. Larry Ketcher, somebody had asked about the businesses. Larry Ketcher's component in Terra was to certify those major Cherokee businesses that have like 50 to 75% Cherokees being employed. Larry will be rolling that out. In fact, the news release went out, and they will be certifying those non-Indian or those Indian-owned businesses that are employing 75 to 50% Cherokees. So that will get up and running, and so there will be another tier in there that could actually come in and bid if there's no Taro vendors or no Cherokee vendors. It may be that one of those people would actually fall into that. And we'll be reporting more on that as we get that going. We also are getting several appeals coming through the Administrative Appeals Board. Probably a month doesn't go by that Laura is not sending something over. And right now, we have only had one that has been overturned. The rest of them, they're going along with the certification committee. And I guess the certification committee's doing a good job. And we've got some EOC complaints that Larry and them have been working on too. They've traveled to 2 or 3 different locations in the 14 county area working with people on EEOC cases. So pretty busy. Any questions?
Good. Councilor Fisher.
Yes, I had asked last month, I asked John over, I've been receiving a bunch of complaints about the day work program. They said we put the requirement on it that not only do they have to have a driver's license, they have to have a GED.
we are, anybody that comes through that doesn't have a GED, we are requesting that they go through the GED. And one of the reasons is because a lot of employers right now require someone to have a high school diploma or a GED. And that's one of the reasons why some of these people cannot get good jobs or jobs other than just a program job, because they don't have that. And we're actually testing them, and we realize that there are some people, as was stated, that only have like a second or third grade education, and some of them are falling into what we would call our voc rehab area. And Brenda and her staff will be working with some of those clients that are going to fall into that category.
How many spots are there going to be in voc rehab, Diane?
I don't know that. I don't know. It's just some things that we talked about. I haven't had a chance to follow back up on it, and I do apologize.
Did you find out? Because I mean, like I said, I know we had a lot of people during the day work program, and there's quite a few working. But then we turned around, we started putting all the requirements on it about the time we kept your budget. So I think it's rather convenient, but I'd still like to know that, because my counties and Delaware, Salzal, have so many people all into that second, third grade. And it's nice to say, well, you can't, you know, it's the easy way out for me is how I see it is for us to say, well, they're going to have to get a GED. But how can you tell a 50-year-old man he's going to go back to school and sit in that classroom and let some 20-year-old teach him how to write?
Well,
I think in the real world, and that ain't happening.
Okay. We are looking at that, and that was one of the reasons why Brenda said that she needed to look at some of those that fall into that category based on this, because I got my notes from last month. And they are looking at those, and over the holidays there will be a little bit of lag time in there. That was one of the things that she was going to have Tanya Hudson to work on. Tanya is a new voc rehab counselor, but her primary emphasis will be into working with those clients in the employment end of it. So all those people that you're talking about, Tanya will get to work with them.
Okay.
And so we are looking at that. But
Okay.
I can't tell you where we're at with it because I haven't had a chance to sit down and visit with Brenda and her staff, but I will.
Okay, last month I also asked, and I did attend the Terrell Fair, I couldn't, but Tyler mentioned something to me real quick. I had asked about inquiring of the Terrell vendors, approaching them about helping with the Veterans Center, and I just want to know how that went.
Excellent. There was a form that Angela Drews and Dana Espinal had developed, and they were put in the programs at all of the seats at the banquet. And Deputy Chief Grayson got up and talked a little bit about the Veterans Center and what was being, where we were at with it, what we were wanting to do, and then rendering, and then they showed a video. And he asked them if they would take the time to look over that form and if they could donate time, plumbers, electricians, or even monetary. They appreciate it. So what we did is throughout the evening, they kept bringing them up there to the table, and as they kept bringing them up, we kept reading them. We had a whole stack, and I can't tell you how much, but we can probably go back, and Dana could probably put a report together, but it was overwhelming. And what was funny was after the banquet was over with, somebody came up and said, can we do this at your banquet next year and see if they want to do this? And Anna said, do you think we could get holiday volunteers next year? I said, you guys are really pushing this, aren't you? But no, it was very overwhelming.
Well, I'll tell you who told me about it, suggesting it was Robin, when I met with Robin the other day. She suggested it because the Flint Co. provided their project, and she'd asked me the other day how it went, and I was curious. And I thought,
I will ask Dana if she can provide a report at the next meeting.
because I kind of like to tell Robin, I thought that was a pretty good idea. What was the last thing I wanted to ask you? Oh, thank you for providing my map that I've, or my flow chart, my chart I've asked for about how Terrell has grown, the businesses from 05 on up. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I was about to say, since 07, it seems to be growing exponentially. It's doubling every year.
Yes, if you look at your that monthly report on the certifications, we're getting a lot of certifications come through. And with the piece that Larry Ketcher's going to be doing, I'm sure it's even going to be greater. But it won't be, they won't be Indian, but they could be. It just depends.
Well, no, I'm kind of proud of what's happening. I think the council can take some of the credit for that.
Well, we were putting together a report for the chief on what all we've done this past year, and I was very overwhelmed whenever I looked at the numbers of jobs, the number of people that we saw this past year, plus what we did in terms of moving buildings and offices. We did quite a bit this past year, and I'll put something together and maybe show you all that next month.
Diane, if you didn't do the most over here, I would be disappointed in you.
Well, I don't know about that. Takes everybody working together. I have to commend Anna Knight and her staff. They help us out a lot and work very closely with Angie Drews and her group. I have to work with Callie. She's the money lady.
Even from the hospital bed.
You say that like it has a bad taste in your mouth.
Councilor Buster.
Diane, I've had some people come to me and talk about some of our contractors and subcontractors that were doing work that didn't meet specifications or doing things that weren't up to par or other things. My question is, I'd like to see the list, or I'd like to see the criteria for debarring contractors or subcontractors. Do we have anything in policy to say this is how and this is at what time we're going to debar these contractors from working with us? It's not only from the Cherokee Nation, but from the C&E point of view or C&B, wherever they may be. To this date, and I'd like to know if there's been any contractors debarred.
Okay. One of the things that when the executive order was put in place in February of this year, all of the entities, the government, CNI, C&E, everybody was to go back and look at their policies and procedures. And one of the things that had been recommended was that they did put something in there regarding the specifications on these jobs, the debarment. And it's my understanding on their procedures that was one of the things, and I can have those for you next month.
I'd like to see those procedures for debarment, and then I'm glad you talked about the executive order. I understand that we're still giving meetings about the executive order, and that was done last March or April. So are we still holding meetings?
The meetings have concluded with all the tarot vendors. There's only one piece that we're still working on, and I know that Becky and them are working. They're enforcing the executive order. I don't know exactly where they're at on the procedures, but it's moving forward. So everything else is in place.
Well, that was my question about debarment. I've just had 2 or 3 complaints about I say 2 or 3 contractors, and I'm wondering, what I'm hearing is not good, and I'm wondering if we've even checked into it to see if we have a debarment procedures in place.
I only know of one at this point in time that has been recommended.
Okay.
So.
If I could address the question on debarment. We did recently add that, a section on that to the procurement policies so that there could be a more formal process for that, and it would involve, the program filing a complaint. I think it has to be reviewed by Tarot, then it would go to through the AG's office and also through the administrative review. So we are trying to get a more formal process there. And to my knowledge, no one has officially been debarred. There are a few that are, as Diane said, being looked at because of performance issue.
And just to follow up, and the reason I bring this up is when I was over in the roads program, we had some contractors in it that I wish we got debarred. But I think a lot of it depends on the program directors or managers of writing those complaints up and keep them on file. Because if you don't have them on file, you're not going to debar anybody. But I have some concerns. I have 2 or 3 people or 2 or 3 contractors, general and subcontractors, that I've had complaints on. That's really complaints that I'm really concerned about, and I'm wanting to know if we got policies in place for it. So I would appreciate to see the criteria that we're using for debarment if we have that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to expand on that a bit, in addition to debarment for poor performance, let us know what your policies say about debarment for companies that violate federal or tribal labor law, employment law, and safety laws. I hope our policies address that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Jordan.
And I hope that when we draw up the debarment procedure, that we also consider if they've been debarred on the state or federal level, that we give credence to the fact they're already on a debarment list. because they go through a pretty exhaustive process before they debar anyone, and it's always been for very legitimate concerns. But we want those people on our list to do business when they've already been denied the right to do business through another proper entity that has had to debar them.
Okay. Any other questions?
And just to follow up on it, when can we have those policies? When will they be approved and when will we start using them, I guess is my question.
You want to respond to that?
The procurement policies were recently approved, and I can get you a copy of that.
Okay.
Any other?
The policies for CNI, CNE, they were done several months ago, but we can get you copies.
Any other questions for Ms. Kelly? Thanks, Diane. And
Thank
once
you.
again, it's good to have you back with us.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Commerce. I see that Anna's not here, but we do have the report. Okay. We'll move on to consent items. And the first is the tarot certifications. And I would entertain a motion for their approval.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on any of them? Yes.
Just for the record, I didn't catch it when I went through, but there's a Cowan, same spelling. I have no idea who this person is. To my knowledge, she is not a family member on there.
Okay. Duly noted. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Just a comment, I think the one she's talking about is in our county, and she makes the best cakes in the world.
Does that mean I need a claimer?
No, I don't think she's any relation to you. I don't mean that you can't cook, but
Okay. Next item is the cemetery restoration assistance applications, and it was passed out during our meeting, and there's one Corntassel Cemetery in Trail of Tears District. I would entertain a motion for its approval.
Make that motion.
For a second. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next are the roads. Mr. Evans.
Mr. Chairman, there's not any road projects to be approved this month, but there is a noted reprogram from Mays County from the Woodland Road project to the North 442 Road, sponsored by Councilor Soap, and it's reprogramming both the fuel tax dollars that was allocated toward it as well as the bridge funding in the amounts of $41,000 of fuel and $15,500 of the bridge. And also on a special note, the vehicle tax fund revenues should be firm enough next month to be able to calculate the apportionment for the vehicle tax accounts. Preliminary numbers are showing approximately 90,000, which is consistent with the levels that we've been in the past, maybe even slightly up. By the next month's meeting, we should be at a point where we can get estimates into the mod package, hopefully for next month, as well as bringing forward for accepting projects in the January meeting.
Okay. Very good.
Those will require a budget, so they won't. Although they're on a consent for utilization, they have to be funded through an appropriation. And once we get those dollars firmed up through Callie's group, then her and Michael Lynn's group will submit a budget mod for it.
Okay. So do I hear a motion that we approve the road projects?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion's carried. Next is new business, which is our budget mod 2. Mr. Evans.
Mr. Baker,
Councilor Garvin.
I have a question on motor vehicle tax. I noticed 5 different council people have 20,000. And I was wondering what that is and where it came from.
Okay. Every council member has that 20,000 contained in the vehicle tax, and what that is 15 times 20,000 is 300,000. That's the reprogramming that occurred in the budget hearings from, as you recall, there was a significant balance of unspent admin dollars in the fuel tax fund, and there was a reprogram of $300,000 into construction out of admin during the budget hearings. I believe Councilor Buzzard may have brought that forward in the first or second day of hearings, and that's where the vehicle tax funds are coming from.
So everyone has 20,000.
Everyone has 20. If they didn't have anything below or before, then it's just 20, and if they had balances, it was added to those balances.
So we got 20,000 we can spend.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Next is new business, budget line 2.
There's a significant amount of grants coming online this month, $13.9 million, approximately $10 million of that's prior year funding. With the large components being economic stimulus, Federal Highway Administration construction, carryover $6.9 million from DOT. Also, Sequoia High School has a significant amount of carryover, $500,000 for education and over $800,000 for special ed. There's $3.5 million increases on grants from DHHS, from Community Anti-Drug Network, as well as the economic stimulus Category B tobacco grant. And those total $3.5 million. Significant grants there. One new tribal tobacco control grant for $200,000, and a few miscellaneous adjustments also was on DHHS. HUD had 4 carryover adjustments for the Redbird Fairfield Road, Waterline, and housing projects that totaled in aggregate slightly over $830,000. EPA had a small pesticide award for $41,000. Department of Labor has some economic stimulus OJT, NEG, and career services that's prior year funds for $833,000. And Federal Other has 3 grants: basic education, virtual library, and violence against women, totaling $307,000. And finally, the private grant funding source has OU Community Network Project carryover adjustment prior year as a negative $63,000. So that actual is being adjusted downward based on actual carryover at this point. The mod itself has 17 budgets totaling $1.4 million. The general fund or tribal fund doesn't have any net increase in appropriations for programs. However, it does have a reallocation for some cash match for some grants for USDA community planning and the Sequoia High School IDA project. Indirect cost pool has a slight $73,000 increase for office services for some operating expense increases, and office service reimbursement, which captures all those costs through the office services that they perform and then bill out in direct billing. That budget's coming online, has a net zero because all of its costs are allocated out. Internal lease fund is a consolidation of budgets with zero impact. Basically, that's consolidating housekeeping, signs operations, facility maintenance, ground maintenance, and building maintenance into a collective budget, I'm sure, for administrative ease of management. Department of Interior self-governance increasing $44,000 on the HIP program. That's utilizing prior year funds to transfer out for a cash match on the housing preservation grant. IHS self-governance environmental health has an increase of almost $900,000, and that is specifically on economic stimulus, water and sewer budget. And that's prior year funds, and that has $2.5 million in its budget for this year. DHHS General is increasing $130,000 for that Sequoia High School IDA project. It's funded 50% with a cash match provided by a partial seed grant carryover of 50 and a slight cash match from the tribal fund of 14. USDA fund is increasing $136,000, with 81 of that being on the housing preservation grant, and again, half of that's grant funds and the other half provided by matching funds. Same holds true for the USDA planning grant for $55,000, again, half grant and the other half by tribal matching funds. And the HOSDA fund has $134,000, with primarily being attributed to the Housing Authority of Delaware Tribe operating subsidy, spending authority of $138,000 increase of prior year carryover funds for the modernization and operating subsidy budget. The Career Services has a slight decrease due to an IDC rate adjustment. And then finally, the private funding, $51,000 for the seed admin. That's carryover dollars, and they're transferring out again for that IDA project cash match. Didn't see any technical issues with the mod, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a motion for the approval of mod 2? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Announcement, we're having lunch at the Cherokee Heritage Center. Everyone's invited. I entertain
So moved, adjourned.
Second.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.